Hello? Hello? Hey,
Hey.
I'm here to paint. You see, I got my my painting kit on.
You're my help today.
Yeah.
So
What are you doing?
I just need you to paint a bit of this wall.
Marvin, you're here. Yeah, painting. Well, that's not what you're actually painting today, you know. No? No.
Oh really?
What am I painting? Got a bit of a surprise for you.
I just started though.
Nah, we're gonna really test your painting skills today.
So,
Okay. Why can't I get it out for the big wall? What's this? Let me just finish this off. I can't leave the job half finished.
no, it's fine, it's fine.
Yeah? Okay, let me hand that to you.
I guess it's just me today.
Yeah.
Alright, so
let's see what we got. Alright. Okay.
Alright, so today we're actually gonna be painting on the canvases. But before we start,
So it's not the big bad wall.
nah.
It's a picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So before we start, we're gonna hand sanitize.
Yeah, always. That's tradition of the year. Remember when everywhere sold out of hand sanitizer?
Yeah. It was like gold dust.
Nah, toilet paper.
Oh my god, that's terrible. Right. So today, what we're actually going to be doing is we're going to paint something that represents Bristol to us.
I gotta paint a proper picture.
Yeah.
I could just about write words. Okay.
Well, we're going to try and get as best as we can.
Okay.
You got any ideas?
But there's always something that always comes to mind for me that I used to do a lot when I was a teenager was go to Cabot Tower.
Okay.
I used to feel trapped. I used to go to the top of Cabot Tower, look out across the whole city, look at those little plates pointing to all those cities around the world and think, oh, I could escape.
Do you know what? I actually relate to that. So where Cabot Tower is, there's got like the benches.
Yeah.
That's my stress point because when you feel trapped, the view is a beautiful view of Bristol. So,
Water, hills, horizon. Yeah.
Alright. And today we've also got a lovely Toya with us.
Hello. You okay?
Yeah, you good?
Yeah. So Toya's also ran some of the protests when we was dealing with the Black Lives Matters. So she's gonna be here. So today, also with the pictures, we're gonna have a little bit of a paint and talk.
Paint and talk. Okay.
So that's the theme of today.
Sounds good.
Paint
So I
and
talk a lot.
Yeah.
But painting ain't usual.
Yeah.
So painting. That's gonna see if I can do two things at the same time.
Alright, brilliant.
Let's do it.
Get it on.
So today, Marvin, we have some questions, some of which are by myself and Amari, and some of them are from others in the community that have been sent in to us. Cool.
Okay, sounds good.
Amazing.
And I'm mixing my colours while we're doing it.
You are? Okay. I'm excited for this masterpiece.
And the first question is, what are your plans to create opportunities for the Black community?
So that fits within a much broader conversation we're having anyway, which is about how we build an inclusive economy. So historically, Bristol's been known as a very wealthy city, and it's told that story to the outside world, and quite successfully. about its wealth, about its opportunity. 2 world-class universities, thriving in creative sector, 1/3 of the world's natural history broadcasting. But when I came in, I was very clear that we've got to recognise the fact that tens of thousands of people in Bristol don't share in that story.
Yeah.
So we've got to build an inclusive economy. And you do that by doing it on purpose. Not a project here and a project there, but you do it on purpose. You do have to do cover the project. So we've got that, and in our economic recovery plan that we've written through the city office, with the city, with business, with unions, inclusion runs right through the heart of it. Inclusion and sustainability. Oh. Now what that means practically is then when we're thinking, so I'm talking to developers now when I come to the city, what we talk about is, okay, well if you're going to come and do millions of pounds worth of regeneration in the city, tell us about the apprenticeships you can give to our local people.
Yeah.
Right? Tell us about the jobs. Talk to us about how you're going to use the local supply chain, right? So local plumbers, electricians, window fitters, floor layers, all that local supply chain gets pulled into that regeneration rather than that money leaking from the city. So that's really key. And one of the things that we have to do is make sure that businesses and people got the right skills to take advantage of those opportunities that are coming. And you'll know there are cranes in the horizon now, so the city's getting rebuilt. So that's really what we're doing. Now we do reach out specifically into the communities who have historically been left behind, and black people are amongst those. So working with groups like Black Southwest Network, for example. Babasa, again, our voluntary community sector. That's really some of the people we've been working with to try and make sure that people are ready to take advantage of those opportunities. But there's been a real buy-in from business in the city, recognising that you cannot sustain an economy, you cannot sustain society if you've got wealth running off over the hill and leaving tens of thousands of people behind.
So thank you for that, Marvin. The next question we've got, it says, you praised the police response to the protests, saying that they managed it with sensitivity. There are videos of policemen bashing helpless sitting protesters. What sensitivity was demonstrated here?
Yeah, that is an example of where you have to be pretty specific in what's going on. So that's obviously in relation to what happened in Bristol a few weeks ago. So first off, what I actually said was, over the last year, the police have shown themselves able to police with a degree of emotional intelligence. And that was the defence I put up when our police were coming under attack of the way they responded to Colston statue and the Cenotaph event as well. And so I said there's evidence of our police being able to police with emotional intelligence and without ego. When Priti Patel started to attack our police or challenge them, that was my defence against them, right? As opposed to the lock them up, culture war, law and order approach that I think our national government were advocating. I'll tell you something about that, right? So first off, you'll see my picture, what I think represents Bristol is, one of the points I often want to make is, because you don't know just because you don't know it's happening, doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yes.
Right? There's lots of things happening, right, that make a difference. So for example, would anyone know that myself and Asher sat down with leading police officers and the Assistant Police Crime Commissioner and someone who looks at police standards on incidents like that, would anyone know that we spent an hour and a half going through all that footage and then feeding back on a Saturday afternoon? No one knows that. Would anyone know that I then said to a senior officer, this is bloody awful, you've got to sort this out? Right? No one knows, right? But sometimes things happen in rooms where a conversation happens and then people take action. Now, as it happens, I think, and my experience is, and I think you'll find from organisations like SARI, black police officers that have been here before, that we've had a leadership in the Bristol Police England Somerset that's had an interest and an openness to being challenged on race and equality in a way that we haven't actually had before. That's just the truth, right? And if you go around and talk to people who deal with hate crime, more broadly, and issues of stop and search, this is what you'll hear. So that's what we've been working with. So that's a time when things are happening. And I will say the first response I had when I made some inquiries like that was, no, it's all on tape, Marvin. It's fine. I said, no, let's have a look at the tape.
Yeah.
Once we saw the tape, and we all sat there. And the powerful thing is, we all were watching the tape at the same time.
That's good, yeah.
Right? And clearly, just said this is not okay. And sometimes you don't have to tweet everything. You have to post everything on Facebook. Sometimes you don't even have to make elaborate sentences. You just have to say okay.
Yeah.
And people know what you mean by understatement sometimes,
Yeah. Just as like a little side question as well. Because sometimes I think it must get like a bit, not frustrating, but a bit like, oh, what's going on? Like when people say, oh, what are you doing? But there's so much that you're doing that people haven't seen that is making such a big effect, and they don't even know it's coming from yourself.
Yeah, that's interesting. So someone said the other day, there are all these posters around food sustainability, and they've got a really tiny logo in the corner that says Bristol City Council. We're like a major partner, that can be, and it comes back to that point, because you don't know doesn't mean it isn't.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that can be frustrating. But I think if we can stay true to what good leadership should be, good leadership should not be going around trying to take credit for everything. There's that problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
When a great leader leaves, the people say we did it ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? Now we work to that principle. The problem is that's not all good for politics. Because re-election politics, you leave, everyone says, hey, they did it for us. Yeah. But we've been trying to stay true to good leadership, right? How can we find fantastic people who want to get great stuff done and help them get it done? And then you have that multiple sources of leadership. Actually, that makes change more sustainable. So I come from a community development background, right?
Yeah.
Community development is not about trying to create dependency in a community. Community development is about trying to build power in the communities. And part of the discussions we've been having is, how can the City Council not just be a provider of services, how can the City Council be a development organisation, so that after any interaction with a council service, people are stronger, they're not dependent on those services.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for us to know.
Yeah.
So we've got another question that's coming in here as well, and the question is, what are the plans to deal with the knife crime within the city?
So we've had quite a concentrated piece of work on that for some time, actually. We came in very aware of it. That's obviously growing up in the area, but certainly when we saw just about 3 or 4 summers ago a real kind of explosion in London, again another surge, we tried to get really proactive. So between myself and Asher, reached out to the Police Crime Commissioner, we reached out to the Health Service as well, to put some money in the pot to fund some of the proactive summer work that we felt was needed. And in fact, we tried to get the city to see that, as we said to the Health Service, it may not seem to be your everyday business to prevent knife crime, but if someone gets stabbed, how much is that going to cost you? As well as the social justice issue, it makes financial sense to put 10 grand in the pot and help us, get that proactive outreach over the summer. So working with those organisations who have those authentic connections, like Full Circle, that's where we have really reached out. And we do have a specific piece of work going on around street safety as well, which brings together a lot of agencies within the city. But there's a context as well to it, isn't there? That it's not just reactive, your potential perpetrator, your potential victim, and we come in at the end. We really want to get upstream on areas like mental health, and again, the point of economic inclusion, so that people feel they have hope. There are other avenues they can pursue to lead a fulfilling life and get the contributions they want for the city, and are less vulnerable to being sucked into those circles whereby they may end up in a knife crime confrontation.
Okay.
So that's where I think the economy is so important for us as well.
Yeah. Is there anything done for individuals who go to prison for knife crime do you know? You know, like if someone's, you know, going to prison, been to prison for knife crime and maybe getting released, is there any sort of programs that they get put in either whilst they're, well, I know there isn't any while they're in prison, but maybe just before they get released around like education,
So
to do specifically with the crimes that they committed.
So we banned what's in Bristol. And again, no one, just because people don't know it's happening doesn't mean it's not happening.
So what exactly does that mean?
It means that when you look at an application form at the City Council, you don't have to tick. We don't say to you, oh, do you have a criminal record? There are certain jobs where we have to know, but outside that we don't ask you to, you don't get knocked out at the first, you know, at the first round.
So is there anything that can be done? Because I wasn't aware that this was a thing. So perhaps if you're an individual who has gone for a job and maybe on 10 of those application forms it actually asks that question. I guess my question is, one, so is it are you saying that you don't actually have to answer, or you don't have to put it?
We don't put the box on our application form. We don't ask the question.
Is that for Bristol City Council?
Yeah.
Okay.
My iceberg, kind of, I knew what I wanted it to look like, but it's not necessarily looking exactly like it.
Not very iceberg-like.
Well, if I told you it's an iceberg, you'd be able to work it out, but it's the thing, isn't it? Good artists know how to make a picture look like what they want it to look like, as well.
Are you calling yourself an artist?
Everyone's an artist.
Another question we have is, there are videos, this is again on some of the protests that happened, there are videos of policemen who were wearing no PPE at the protest. Do you care to comment?
That's a bit more difficult for me to comment because that would be an operational decision.
Yeah.
So in our interaction with the police, there are general things we can discuss with them.
Yeah.
But operational issues about the equipment they use at different times, that would be down to the police. What I will say is that again, they are fully aware of the COVID situation, and it's one of the things that they are responsible for enforcing. I think they take the last incident, aside, because I know there are specific questions about that. But I think what they have shown over the course of the year is a real sensitivity to how to work with COVID. So, for example, I know, because we had these conversations, that while they had enforcement powers, it's the last thing they wanted to do. So they've taken an engage and educate approach. Engage, educate, encourage.
Yeah.
They do not want to be arresting. And actually in our weekly or so check-ins, they were trying to keep the numbers down of people that had enforcement action taken against them for breaching COVID guidelines. So they've got that, but on the other side they've got people saying, oh, these people breaching COVID guidelines, how selfish are they? They're making us all pay a price. The police should be harder on them. So they've got it coming from both sides in that sense. But yeah, as I said, equipment, tactical decisions are down to the police itself. We would just expect them, as I think they have tried to public safety. That's what it's about.
Yeah. So another question that we've had come through is, again, going back to the riots, it says, why didn't you condemn police brutality in the riots? So,
I always condemn police brutality. The question is, when and where do you do it? So, we live in an era where, again, because you didn't know what happened, doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Right? And then because someone doesn't put it on Facebook, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But there are ways of doing things, right? So people will contrast me coming on TV the day after people smashed windows and did other things, put fires under police vans on the news. I'm being interviewed on national media, right? But whatever standards there are on policing, one is I don't know what happened on the ground in those situations. But secondly, we've got a good relationship with the Chief Constable, who, over the years he's been there, both with me and other people, has built a reputation that when things happen that don't meet the standard, they get dealt with.
Yeah.
I had a personal incident, something happened around me, it got dealt with. Again, this was not in the papers, no one's ever going to know. So my first port of call, I'm not going to communicate with the chief constable through the press or through Facebook. You know, it's going to be on the phone. It's going to be person to person, and you know, and actually that could be the most effective way of communicating, and the most effective way of making sure that he's got all the power and the support he needs and the space he needs to get stuff done.
But do you not think just for the people who, you know, the people of Bristol, that it would be fair just to acknowledge that that was something that you did?
Yeah, but there are lots of, I acknowledge because I think it was the right thing. Like, you know, my iceberg here says, you know, there are lots of stuff beneath the surface.
Yeah.
And different contexts require different strategies. And this is one of the points I keep making. And I've made it about the process itself.
Yeah.
You know, if the aim is to defeat the bill, and actually my frustration on the strategy was about the bill itself.
Yeah.
Everyone, we're saying that it's about defeating the bill. My point is that if that bill goes through, people who look like me, my family, right, won't go off to a parent's country house and you know, in some Tory Shire and escape the consequences. So we ain't got time for a strategy that actually fails.
Yeah.
And we ain't got time for a strategy that makes the bill more likely. So my point on that day wasn't even about what was going on with the police, because again, you can see actually that the debate was already broadened into police violence, right, and police conduct. We're taking up the bandwidth for the conversation about the bill.
Yeah.
So my point was, well, how do you defeat the bill? Right? So that's a question, rhetorical question. How the bill's going through Parliament, so how do you defeat the bill?
Yeah.
That's a question from me.
Oh, to me?
Yeah. How do you defeat the bill? Let's work through it.
I don't know. That's
well, you have to win the vote. You have to win the vote in Parliament. That's how you defeat the bill. Right? So it's a Conservative bill. Conservatives have a majority. So if you're going to win that vote, what do you need to do?
Put in the work in order.
You need to get Conservatives to vote against their party.
Yeah.
Right? That means they have to vote against the whip. So whenever any strategy is taking place to kill the bill or whatever, you have to show me the connection between the action being taken and the likelihood of getting Conservative MPs to vote against their party whip. It's a big deal to vote against your party whip.
Yeah.
That's career implications, whether you can become a minister or whatever. Right? So my point is, what's the connection? And if you can't show the connection, then what was the strategy for?
But do you feel like people understand that?
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is a problem. So if you look at, I'm for protest. I'm for civil. You know. So look at the Selma Bridge March, right?
Yeah.
1965. You know, Martin Luther King. They had the Voting Rights Act in '64. It wasn't enough. King goes to Lyndon Johnson, says it's not enough. We need a Voting Rights Act. Lyndon Johnson says, I have no more political capital.
Yeah.
Right? King says, okay. King goes to Selma, does the Selma Bridge March. There was a strategy. The police will react, it will be on TV, people will see how horrific this country is, they will see we need the Voting Rights Act, Lyndon Johnson will have the political space to maneuver. There is a strategy. But you have to show the connection between the action being taken and the outcome you want. My point was, all that happened when those windows got smashed and everything, and the situation kept getting hyped up, was those Conservative politicians who were saying, we're losing control of our country. Bang, we just bow tied a parcel and gave it to them. Yeah, here's your evidence. Those Conservatives who say we need police to have more power to control these unruly protesters.
Yeah.
Bow tied, here you go Conservatives, here's a present for you. Now if the protesters remained non-violent throughout and the windows were smashed, what we had demonstrated was the ability to do protest in a way that was orderly, systematic. We take evidence away from it. And so my frustration was because people that look like me that pay the highest price when you get it wrong, was if you're going to step into leadership, right, you've got to get it right. And someone decided to shape that line. So my focus has been forensically on the bill itself and how does the bill get defeated. But we've already lost control of that. Subsequent to that event and that confrontation, it's talked about police violence. Then there was another protest talking about the BBC. I mean, you'll know, right? You're in business. You've got to focus on what you want to get done. You know, the moment you start, your to-do list becomes 22 things rather than the one thing or the 3 things you want to get done. You're losing control. Yeah? We ain't got time. The bill is coming through. We ain't got time to make mistakes, and we ain't got time to make errors, particularly when it's the most vulnerable, the most marginalised who will pay the price for a failed strategy.
Yeah.
And that, to be honest, that has been the driver of my frustration. It's not thought through, and we do not have the luxury, and I would also say we do not have the right to get it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that kind of like the kind of feeling of trying to protect everybody, but then not understanding how you're trying to protect them, in the sense of that if this bill goes through, it's going to be detrimental for us, but what was done in that instant is going to make it easier for them to take away those types of rights and have more of a rigid approach to protesting.
Yeah. So we have to think about these things.
Yeah, a lot of it's gaslighting.
And it may not be fair, right? It may not be fair, but we don't live in a fair world. But we have to think about the consequence, the unintended consequences of our actions.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I have to do. And for me as a politician, I get the point. I would love to have, there's things I'd love to say, but you know, sometimes I just have to take the hit because if I try and manage my image and what people think about me, it will come at the cost of the effectiveness of my intervention.
Yeah. Right? And I get that.
And I got to put the effectiveness of my intervention ahead of whatever people will think about me.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. So, we've got another question here, and it says, what are your thoughts on the strip clubs that are being shut down in Bristol? Do you think that dancers and sex workers need a safe place to earn an income?
Well, they're not. It's a bit premature because it's go to licensing.
Yeah.
So it's not that they are being shut down right now. They're being reviewed in licensing. It's going to go out for consultation. So my point on that, I know it's an emotive issue for some people because it's for some groups. They say the evidence says that having SC sexual entertainment venues in a city makes it more unsafe for women.
Yeah.
And creates a culture in which women are objectified. So there's the immediate question of safety around in the area, and then there's the wider question about what happens in the wider culture about how people view women and women's bodies. And then you have other people saying, well, actually, it's my choice.
Yeah.
I have a career, and this is what I want to do, and it's my power and it's my freedom. And you've got these two, these two positions clashing. So yeah, I'll be open. In 2016, when I was approached with a bunch of evidence that said SEVs make women less safe in the city, and I looked, I said, well, okay, if that's, if this is the voice of women and this is what goes, let's have a look at the evidence. And I would support, the nil cap. But my point is, it's not an executive decision. It's not my decision. It will ultimately be a licensing decision.
Okay.
That's a cross-party group of councillors who will come together. And what's going to happen is, to make sure that everyone has their voices, they will hear evidence. So people will come with evidence saying it makes women less safe and contributes to a culture of objectification of women. Then people who have different evidence, and someone has said, well, I've got evidence to say that that's not the case, it's about empowering women, they'll bring their evidence.
Yeah.
And a cross-party group of councillors will then look at that evidence and make a decision on licensing. I think Blackpool's going through the same thing right now.
Yes.
I think Swansea and Leeds have gone through similar processes in the past. So, at the moment we've got this kind of almost tribal kind of back and forth at the moment.
Yeah.
Because folks up, and that's not helpful. Right, so I'm willing. I've had some evidence given to me. Again, like I said, it's not my decision. It's a licensing decision. But let's as a city, through the consultation, have the conversation, and then come to a view as much as we can with the whole city on whether SEVs are a good thing for the city or not.
And lastly, we have what extra support have you put or plan to put in place to support more businesses of ethnic minorities who aren't given as much opportunities as their white counterparts?
Well, this comes back to the question I made earlier on about how we begin to have the principles of inclusive economy.
Yeah.
So when big investors are coming to the city, we've got a number of really big regeneration projects coming through. Temple Meads is going to be regenerated. That's going to be £200 million. You know, University of Bristol is building a new campus behind Temple Meads. That's going to be £500 million. The LNG on Temple Island is going to be a £350 million regeneration. So the point is, how can we make sure that local businesses from our communities, local supply chain, but from our communities, are well placed to get those contracts.
So how are we able to make sure that people who own, ethnic minorities who own businesses are able to actually get those opportunities and to get into those rooms?
Well, they can get to the rooms because those organisations now that are coming to spend the money, we've put that expectation on them that we want to see social value from the contracts, not just come and make money. You're going to have this anyway. When I come to visit, I need to see it on the wall.
Nice shiny gold frame.
Thanks, Mark.